Alright, hello, this is Althax. Welcome to the patch 1.1 rundown. Now, this is going to be a pretty quick one. It's actually a pretty small patch. We've only got a few changes to some cards and then a few additional bits that we'll go over as we get there, but I think it's still it's going to shift up the middle a little bit. It's going to be a nice fun couple of weeks. So, let's get straight into it. Card updates. Champions, Aurelion Sol. They had teased this in the last update. They had mentioned he was going to become a bit harder to level up. That's fine. What I had kind of speculated is maybe his level up condition would become bound to playing Celestial cards or invoking, but no, it's just a little bit harder to level him up. Now, 25 additional power it doesn't feel like a lot, but you have to remember that Aurelion Sol, just baseline, counted for half of his level up before. Now he only counts for 2/5. So I think with that, it's going to be a pretty big bump. But at the same time, I think Aurelion Sol is just good enough as a level 1 body. 10 mana, 10/10 Fury, Spell Shield, and creates a Celestial card both when you play him and at the start of every round. Aurelion Sol is still the late game card right now. We may see more deep instead of the more invoke heavy decks, but we'll kind of see how that shakes out. Radiant Guardian, power 5 down to 4. I hate this change. I hate it. I think they needed to go the other way. I think it needed to either be 5 down to 4 health or cut out the tough. Now, I don't think... Now, nerfing Radiant Guardian means aggro's better. I don't think that's a problem. I just don't think this is the right change. This just makes Radiant Guardian more of a you win the game card, or a little bit less of a you win the game card against aggro, because they can potentially try to push over her with the reduced healing. But I don't think that's a healthy metagame change. I think it's healthier for aggro decks to be able to deal with the Radiant Guardian body and then go back to burning the face, right? If you're able to take a good trade with the Radiant Guardian, which having 1 less health or having tough would be really crucial for. The reason 1 less health would be super important is a lot of aggressive units have 3 power. And the fact that they have 3 power, right now, you have to trade 2 of them, or you have to trade a full 3 of them into the Radiant Guardian to eventually kill it. That's 15 down to 12 points of healing. Otherwise, you would only have to trade 2, and that represents 15 down to 10 points of healing. That's why I think cutting out the tough or cutting the health by 1 would have been a better change. So we'll see what that does. I think it'll still be run because it still serves the same purpose. It's just a little weaker and a little slower. Alright, Inspiring Mentor, flipped the stats, made it more aggressive. Alright. Ultimately, I don't think this is a change that does much. I think it buffs Inspiring Mentor when it comes off of Petty Officer or... the 4-mana Scout unit that I can't remember the name of. So it buffs the randomly generated Inspiring Mentors more than it actually buffs the card. I still don't think this is worth putting in your deck because its play effect is just weak, and there aren't any cards in the meta right now that really benefit from having 1 extra attack. Pix, health goes up from 1 to 2. I still don't know if this will see play. Pix just... It's such a weak body, it's going to die the first time you attack with it, unless you have something like Lulu on the board, or Mountain Sojourners, but those are set... When you have one of those cards on the board and you're attacking with big chains of support units, you've probably already won. Jack the Winner, health from 5 to 6. I think this is a good change. It hurts to see Jack get nerfed a bit, but he was a pretty sticky, strong body. Petty Officer, reverting the previous buff that put it from 1 health to 2. That buff was basically enough to make Petty Officer played in every single Bilgewater aggressive and mid-range deck. Cutting its health back down to 1 makes it a bit harder to take good trades. It doesn't trade into something like War Chefs anymore. So we'll have to see if that's enough to be cut in these decks. I think I'll probably still run it in my Scout deck, but it's definitely weaker now. Bastion. Oh boy. Changed from give an ally spell shield for a round, so purely defensive, to give an ally +1/+1 and spell shield permanently. This is one of the new most powerful, frustrating, just generally strong combat tricks in the meta. It can be used during trading to buff up a unit. It can be used in reaction to a spell. This is now incredibly versatile. Maybe I don't even feel like it's that overcosted because you can just save spell mana for it. So I think Bastion is going to be a pretty strong card from here out. Cosmic Inspiration basically just changed to no longer refill your spell mana. So before it effectively costed 4 to give everything +2/+2, now it's just a 7 mana card. I think that's fine. I think it was too easy to fit into a curve before. Helps nerf. This specifically, I feel like nerfs Expedition Invoke decks, and I think that's a good thing. I think this is a card you would usually take in an Invoke-heavy Expedition deck to really help buff up a lot of your weaker Invoke cards. And the fact that it effectively costs 3 more mana now feels pretty good. So we'll have to see if that changes anything with Expedition. Grandfather Removal. Change to give 2 allies +0/+4. This card is probably going to see play. That is my expectation. The body is solid, right? He's got 2, like I said in the last patch rundown, he has 2 great keywords for his stat line. Overwhelm to use his high attack, and Spell Shield to keep him safe. Now he gives 2 different allies +0/+4, right? 4 permanent health. That, yes, he costs 8 mana. That's the only thing that makes me think this might not see play. I think if there was we know Freljord's Bond of Brothers spell, not Bond of Brothers, but I don't think it's Iceborne Legacy, but the Freljord spell that gives 2 allies 3 health permanently, that's costed at 4 mana. So I would cost Grandfather Removal's body at 6 at most. So right now we're looking at an effect worth 4 to 5 mana, probably even just 4 because it loses the burst speed. An effect worth 4 mana on a body worth probably 6 to 7 mana. That feels like a good card. I don't know if I think he'll see play. I want him to see play. I think this is a good change. Lots of stuff about Hush, lots of really controversial stuff. I'm going to skip all of the discussion here and go right to the end. For next patch, Hush will no longer be repeatable and cost less. That feels like a good change to me. I think being able to silence champions feels really good. So I'm glad they're keeping that as part of the identity. But the repeatable aspect definitely did lead into most of the frustration with Hush. So it's going to be nerfed for 1 more patch in that the fleeting Hushes will cost additional mana. But I think the change ultimately will be good for the game. And yes, the minor circle jerk around nerfing Hush does get its validation. Mountain Goat, health from 1 to 2. Just overall a pretty solid change. I think Mountain Goat is a pretty solid unit after this change. Makes him really, really difficult to remove. Well, he can no longer be removed with a ping, which I think is the biggest part with Bilgewater decks running Shadow Isles decks running Vile Feast and Unspeakable Horror. Having that 2 health is going to be a pretty big deal. We have a new Butterfly Guardian, a new card back, a new bundle, and a new lab. Single player lab. I will be hopefully, recording and or streaming every single possible option for this lab. I am super excited. It sounds really fun, and yeah, I really hope that it's repeatable. It looks like it is based on the description, but I'm hoping I will be able to play all 6 options. There are 2 champions, Leona and Diana, and 3 passive options for each of them. And this kind of makes me think of Hearthstone's single-player content, which was easily the best part of that game. So I'm really excited to see how Legends of Runeterra handles that. In-game leaderboards, alright, you can now see how you match up against your friends. Some expeditions tweaks. We've removed the offering bonus for Call of the Mountain. That's good. That means invoke cards are going to be less frequent. Drafting late game decks is going to feel a little bit better. And reduced how often the shopkeeper will offer the common invoke cards, which are Behold the Infinite, Moondreamer, and Star Shaping. So that's also going to just baseline remove a lot of invoke cards from Arena. I think to an extent this may polarize decks in that some decks will just have a lot of invoke cards because they got lucky. I think that's fine though. Like, a big part of Expedition is that it's very forgiving. If you drop a game, except for the last game, if you drop a game, you have a chance to win again and just start off your run as if nothing happened. I think that's crucial here because it means if you run into the guy with 15 Moondreamers, well, that wouldn't even be really good. If you run into the guy with an absurd early Daybreak curve into just constant Moondreamer spam, you're probably not going to run into him twice in a row. So, and if you're really worried about that, just take 5 seconds, walk away from the game, refill your water, just come back and play again. So then we've got some archetype changes. Otherworldly creatures added Feral Mystic, Fledgling Stellacorn, Porofly, and Tall Tales. I don't think this will do much. It definitely dilutes the pool, and Otherworldly Creatures was probably the best performing Arena package, which is why it's getting this change. So I do like the change. Radiant Dawn cohesiveness rating increased to medium from none. That's pretty crucial because it means you're going to see a lot less Daybreak cards, as well as the Solar Winds cohesiveness rating increased to high from medium. You're going to see a lot less Daybreak cards in decks that you don't specifically like start out with Leona or grab some Daybreak cards pretty early on. So I like that change. I think there were too many Daybreak cards in Arena, and they made having things like the Solari Shieldbearer into the 3-mana 1/2 Invoke Daybreak, that always felt pretty close to unbeatable, so that feels good. We've also added Blessing of Targon and Fledgling Stellacorn to Radiant Dawn in exchange for Hush. Again, just kind of a nerf. These are 2 bad cards in the package, and removing out a pretty good pseudo removal. So overall, pretty good nerf to it. Solar Winds gets Sunblessed Vigor and White Flame Protector, and actually removes Behold the Infinite and Moondreamer. Again, just less invokes. I think Sunblessed Vigor and White Flame Protector are much worse cards, but that's important. We needed to nerf Targon. So that is pretty much going to be everything. I do want to point out, so they've made match history available through the API, like that. They have bug fixed Plunder Poros. Now it can get Spell Shield and Fury. Always good. I'm curious if that's going to be a repeated issue with each new keyword they add. And this is actually the change that I found most interesting. Scrapshot now correctly tosses cards even if its target is removed, because this feels like a nerf to an almost unplayable card, but it's also kind of a buff because sometimes you could be relying on the toss. So it's a nerf buff. It's a change. It's basically just a change. I think it's really it's good to know that they're willing to care about a card that you should really never put in your deck. Scrapshot is really bad. So anyways, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. I will be back in 2 weeks. I will also be streaming again starting next week. My stream schedule is going to be new to start at noon, Monday through Thursday. So hope to see you there.